Hello, friends. It's the Star Wars podcast. I mean, the Cinemondo podcast with Kathy and me talking about Star Wars.
Star Wars, and
Movies.
I'm almost dreading this final season because I know it's leading up to Rogue One, which was one of my favorite Star Wars movies. It felt very gritty, kind of unlike a lot of the Star Wars movies. It felt very gritty and down to earth, and it also is such a tragic. We know what's going to happen, but such an intense ending. So this leading up to that, I wonder, and we'll see in the trailer how far we go, but I wonder how far into Rogue One will we get? Will we get a little recap of Rogue One and get to the ending, or are we just going to get right to the beginning of Rogue One? I'm very interested in knowing how far the series goes.
Rogue One was great. That's, I think, probably one of my favorite of those of that era of Star Wars stuff. Mm-hmm. And it really, the title of the entire thing is Star Wars. So it's always about, there's always got to be some sort of war happening, some aspect of war. Yeah. And that was really like a war kind of film, based on the kind of film like Kelly's Heroes or something, where it's like a heist kind of war film where you're trying to get this thing across enemy lines, and over here, it's a heist kind of a feel to it. Exactly. With a bunch of, with a ragtag group of folks. And that was really fun. I always talk about this with Star Wars stuff. I prefer the ones that aren't about the elite up, the princess and the greatest Jedi.
Or like the rebels.
The first one, the rebels, the ragtags. The first Star Wars film to me is a definitive Star Wars film because it's a farm boy.
That's right.
Who doesn't know what he's doing, and he's like, I got to get out of this stupid farm. And then there's a smuggler who and his falling apart looking spaceship, and an old man who lives out in the desert. And those kind of stories to me are fun because you can kind of relate to these people. But then in the prequels that came out, after those initial three, the prequels that came out, those were, I think, reflected the fact that by that point, George Lucas was himself kind of a mighty emperor of the world. And so his characters reflected who he was at that time, which was like the greatest queen and the princess of the planet, and the greatest Jedis and the head of the Jedis and the most skilled of everything. And to me, it wasn't as interesting. And that's why I like about Andor. It kind of goes back to that idea of this is a, ragtag, a guy who's not doing so good. He's struggling. He's got problems. He's got issues. He's in prison. There's a lot of stuff about it that I really like, in a story.
And I think Diego Luna, the actor who plays Andor, is so good at he's smart and he's scrappy, but he doesn't feel like the big expert and everything. And he's kind of fumbling along, and he messes up a lot, but he has the vision and he has the drive. He really wants to do something, and he's going to do it. He's getting kind of his group together. It's that kind of great, ragtag group of rebels. Yeah, he's so good at that because you feel like he's capable. I feel like he's so strong and he's so great, but he's not like the superhero strong. He just seems like
he's realistic strong. He could fail, and let's not look too far into the future with the characters, but he's a little bit of a tragic character as well, and you kind of feel sorry for him. And he goes to prison, and he goes through this nightmare of going to prison and getting locked up. And then the series, the first season of Andor, kind of has a whole lot of different aspects to it, where you get these characterizations, you introduce these people and this rebellion that's going on, and then he goes to prison, and it becomes kind of a prison film. And what's happening in the prison is really cool, and it's revealed what they're doing, what they're building, and
it's really creepy when the reveal. Oh god.
Yeah. And it's just to me, it was one of the better Star Wars series. In fact, I would say it probably is my favorite one. It was better than Obi-Wan, and I'm looking forward to it. I guess I'll put it that way, more than I would be if there was a second season of Obi-Wan.
Well, Obi-Wan was not well done. I just didn't think they did the justice to the characters or the mythology. I feel like it.
Yeah.
And they kind of, but anyway,
it was a strange one. It was like a weird outlier. One. Yeah. Had its moments, but
the creators of this had done that. I feel like it would have been a whole different thing, because I feel like Andor didn't really get his moment in that. So, I mean, not Andor. I feel like Obi-Wan never got his moment in that, and so then you're waiting for him to do something. It just never really happened. But Andor,
Yeah, Andor is it's a character and a situation and a quest that I'm interested in. And it's the type of Star Wars that I like, you know.
Exactly, because it's a big moment. It's a big major thing in the Star Wars like mythology, and you want it to happen. You want it to be epic, and it feels like they've been leading up to it for years. We've been trying to get to this moment for years. I'm dreading the moment, but also I can't wait to see how it comes together. So let's check out the trailer. All right.
All right. Are we ready?
Ready.
I came with you to be part of something. The Empire cannot win.
Oh, look.
It's a different kind of mission. If it goes up in flames, it will burn very brightly.
But if I'm giving up everything, I want to win. We have to.
So creepy looking.
Yeah.
We must stand together. We will be crushed.
Resistance is absurd.
It's a weapon. They're building a weapon. The monster will come for us all.
Revolution is not for the saying. You're right here, and you're ready to fight.
There's a future here for those who dare. Welcome to the rebellion.
Sure, yeah. That's great. Oh, chills from that. Holy shit.
Yeah, looks pretty great, huh?
It looks pretty great. I know. And I love Ben Mendelsohn. I've loved him since he was in that series Bloodline. That was and he's such a great actor. He can do so much. And it's cool to see him play this big epic villain in this movie and in the series, because seeing him do that, you get like a lot of layers. And I think he's such a great actor for this. He's not just one thing. So I think he's fantastic. And to see him and Diego Luna together, I hope they're gonna have a big scene together. That'll be great.
Yeah. It looks like it's got all that stuff I was just talking about, the things that I like about Star Wars, you know. It's, you know, they're setting you up for a story that we know the ending to, sort of, but you still have to kind of, I don't know, with prequels, that's always the issue. You know, I know what's going to happen. I know what I know that Luke's, you know, spoiler, Luke Skywalker blows up that big weapon that they're building.
What?
Yeah, the Death is called a Death Star, and Death Luke Star. Skywalker.
That's what that was.
Yeah,
that's
use the Force, Luke. And he, you know, doesn't use the computer, and he goes and he fires it, and direct hit. Yeah, so
a lot of people collateral damage.
If you remember that scene in that older movie.
That old movie.
So you kind of have to watch this knowing how it ends, but they also have to make sure that this is something that you want to watch. You know, you're watching the process of how it develops to that point, and so it needs to be really good.
Yeah. Well, I want to see how, you know, how did they get to Rogue One? You know, by the time Rogue One, you know, we land into Rogue One, they give us a little background, but we're mostly seeing that these people kind of come together and do it. We didn't get to see their development. We didn't see where he came from, where he learned. I just love it. Welcome to Rebellion. He's got his team. Now we're going to head over to Rogue One.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do now.
And then immediately after Rogue One, you get, you know, Star Wars: A New Hope. The very first Star Wars film starts there. And so it's kind of like, you have to, if you're going to do prequels, they need to be really awesome. And it looks like they're doing it with this one. With the first season was pretty great. It looks like we're going to get more in this one.
That's right.
Looks like a bigger epic, you know, looks like he stole a TIE fighter there and crashed it through a window. And
I can't wait. So we have a poster. We did a teaser poster before that had just a close up of Diego Luna, and kind of see that you can still see the texture and going through them in the background. You can kind of see the Death Star behind them, and they kind of make. I like how they have the Death Star, that circle around Stellan Skarsgård. Like it looks like, almost like a moon in the sky. That's very cool. It's kind of a really nice, elegant, minimal collage, which I really like.
And you got Forrest Whitaker looking unhinged, and
I wish that Ben Mendelsohn was a little bigger, but that's pretty cool. And then we have, you know, the classic, like I like seeing them in the fields. You don't usually see the stormtroopers in an environment like that. Kind of cool. So yeah, lots of pretty cool stuff in this poster. I like it's very classy, desaturated, and it looks it's nothing new, but it's a nice fan pleasing poster with everybody.
It looks like a Star Wars poster,
right.
and it looks like it looks like you're going to see some epic stuff happening. Exactly. Large scale Star Wars action.
So this is the final season. So we know this is the one right before Rogue One. So it's going to be bittersweet to see this happen.
Yeah, and that's always the thing. You can't when you start a series like this, you're sort of limited to only a certain number of seasons, even if it's super popular.
Mm-hmm.
And like with I remember feeling that way with Rogue One. It was a prequel, and it ends right where the next one starts. So it's like you can't really do another film between Rogue One and A New Hope.
No,
there's kind of nothing in there. I guess nothing that happens between those two moments. So
very exciting. If you guys have any theories, anything you think is going to happen that we don't know is going to happen, throw out your Star Wars stuff. We'd love to hear it. Can't wait for this series. It's going to be great.
And what's your favorite Star Wars movie? That's the thing that will, sometimes it'll be radically different from what I feel. I feel like the very first one is my favorite because it just had such an impact
it was
on me when
discovery of it. It was new. It was like, what is this? This is so cool. Like that. I think I have to say so. But I love
Empire Strikes Back.
I feel like Empire Strikes Back took what I loved about the first one and just made it bigger, more epic, and just you were kind of invested at that point. So I love those first two the best.
Yeah, it had the snow walkers and all that kind of stuff, and it was
so good,
very cool. And I like all of them, though. Honestly, there's a part of me that loves them all, and there's a part of me also that's a little disappointed with some of them. Yeah. They're not perfect, but they are what they are, and it's a story that I'm being told, and
it gave us Harrison Ford, and he's a legend. You could say it did or Indiana Jones. They both kind of gave us Harrison Ford, but I love them both.
Maybe American Graffiti.
Yeah, I mean he was, but the Harrison Ford.
Yeah, the Harrison Ford that we all know.
Yes. Yeah, American Graffiti kind of hinted at his greatness, and he became great.
Apocalypse Now, even, but
he did great things. I'm talking about intros.
I think Han Solo is his great moment, but then Indiana Jones is pretty cool, and then
it's pretty cool.
Rick Deckard is pretty cool.
He's done a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you.
But he's not in this. He's not in Andor. Sorry.
No, unfortunately,
as far as I know.
No, but Diego Luna is enough for me. I'm happy. Ben Mendelsohn and I'm good.
Yeah.
All right.
Looks good.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye, everybody.